Socialist, communism, social ownership.
Welcome to Adam and Sheridan Show video podcast numero 14. Do you have a habit of interrupting people?
Yeah.
No, that's fine. He finishes my sentences.
I'm actually wearing a shirt that I got years ago that I really enjoy.
It's very, I would say, Army-esque.
It is very Army-esque. It's like my homage to your coat. And I'm so glad you stopped wearing.
That coat, by the way, is Marine.
It is.
Don't ever call a Marine a member of the Army. Apparently they don't like that.
Apparently not.
Yeah. So
you're a member of the armed forces. I'm a Marine.
Marine.
No, it's very important. Well, their identities, and so far as I know, there are a lot of people that kind of take it like if you went to UB and you're like, we're the Bulldogs. Yeah, but you don't really care.
But you know what's a real slap in the face is the Marines are actually part of the Navy. So their paychecks.
My grandpa was in the Navy. Why does it say?
Well, to them, the Marines is the biggest, strongest, most badass branch, and yet their paycheck says Navy on it. So, anyways, I don't know why we're talking about that.
I have no idea.
We're
talking about my shirt. We have more important things. Why do I always feel the need to talk about my shirts on the show?
Because they're so beautiful.
We're going to be talking today about poverty. And this is the
not exactly. Well, a little bit. I just went out of frame there because we're unprofessional. But there's been I don't know if you've been noticing, but this past week, Obama's been traveling around the country giving speeches on how the middle class needs to grow, and we need to keep the recovery from the recession moving along by instituting all these policies which help the middle class grow.
The recovery,
quote unquote recovery.
Which recovery?
Exactly. Well, I'm going to tell you which recovery right now.
Yeah.
So Obama's touting this how ever since 2009, 2010, when the recession ended and things have been going better and the unemployment rate has been ticking down.
Do you still have your Pepsi?
Yes, I still have my Pepsi. This is a Pepsi and a Tim Hortons cup here.
We're
by the way
so professional. But yeah, the claims of the recession ending were, I just want to say that the claims of the recession ending were basically like, hey, the market's picking up and profits are going up and the Dow is going up and all these other indicators. And it really had absolutely nothing to do with anything except moderate unemployment figures, which didn't even count the long-term unemployed. So the recovery, I think, is kind of a misnomer. It's just
let's talk about the kind of jobs that are being added to the rolls.
Do we have to?
Yes, because the staggering. This is according to the World Socialist website, but they're basically just posting the Labor Department's stats.
Yeah,
2/3 of all jobs that were created in the last month were in low-wage sectors. So you're seeing a lot of jobs that are restaurant jobs, and no offense to anyone who works in a restaurant, but you generally tend to be more lower wage, and also
especially
unstable
fast food
too, right?
Yeah, it's very unstable, high turnaround rate, and I worked at an Olive Garden at one point, and they told me stories of dishwashers who would be hired, they'd leave for lunch and then never come back because it's also not very fun work.
Right,
you're hot, you get cut, you get burned. It's really kind of hazardous, but. I think that's why you're seeing an uptick in organization around the fast food workers, because those are the jobs people can get, and if those are the only jobs you can get, you get a lot of conscious people going, we need to make them livable.
Yeah, and this is a quote directly from the World Socialist website. It says, quote, over the past 4 months, the U.S. economy has added 791,000 new part-time jobs, but only 187,000 full-time jobs. Now that's staggering.
Terrible. Yes,
that is just
no one can live
unbelievable. Will you hear Obama mention that in his grandiose speeches as he travels the country? Of course
Most
not.
likely.
He'll go. Now look, I just want to point out that these jobs suck. I wouldn't work them, and anyone who does work them, boy oh boy, you're gonna die soon.
That was a mix between Bill Clinton and Obama. It really was, because you had this going. This is Clinton.
They're both Democrats that are mealy-mouthed.
Well, this is Dana Carvey doing Clinton.
Yeah, and Phil Hartman, too.
Phil Hartman was great.
The late Phil Hartman.
Oh, man. But,
so all those jobs, 187,000 are full-time secure jobs.
And they don't link these stats with the numbers whenever they're reporting on them as far as any financial news. The one thing that I found it very interesting is that a lot of these jobs are also temporary jobs. So they're hiring on large groups of people to say, we don't expect it to last. And if you know anything about temp work, if you've ever done it, which I did for years, it's not very good. You always feel, and the employer sometimes banks on always feeling like you could be let go at any moment. You're hired at a lower wage, you're given fewer raises. In fact, you're not guaranteed a raise, as you are for many long-term employment.
No
they
benefits.
say we're going to give you no benefits or very, very inadequate benefits.
But you know what? You know who's hiring? I'm just reading the same article. Who's hiring these temp jobs? GM and Chrysler.
Yeah.
Ford. The very same companies that used to have great paying jobs, like we're talking $30 an hour, great benefits.
They built the 1950s that everyone kind of loves.
Rhapsodizes about perhaps a little bit too romantic.
Too much, because they forget about the
Civil
bloody
rights.
period in the 20s and 30s that won the labor disputes,
Right.
which gave America that world. But these were jobs that were secure, that were good, that were full-time, that paid well.
So I guess the point of this, if we could sum up in a phrase, or not a phrase, but a few sentences, what this podcast is about, is when you hear Obama give these great speeches, just be aware of what kind of jobs he's talking about, and that this is the future of America. Capitalism has decayed to the point where the United States corporations are no longer really willing to provide good-paying jobs and good benefits to employees here, because they can just get cheap labor over in China. Well, so why not just pay Americans crappy wages? Well, you know what? We're on the internet now, so we can say shitty, right?
Yeah, but we probably shouldn't.
Let's class it up.
Yeah, let's class it up. But one of the things you have to understand is that this is a feature of capitalism, mostly because if you're not growing constantly, you're in crisis. If you're growing at 1 or 2%, that's
not very good.
That's terrible, in fact. You have to be growing at around 3% to actually be in a healthy economic situation. And so one of the ways that people can grow their profits and keep growing their business is if you have nowhere to go, if you have nowhere to sell, if your profits are shrinking because of sales, you can just cut your way to grow.
And that's what's going on right now.
They're making fewer people do more work. They're cutting benefits back. They're just doing all sorts of terrible things.
They're not investing, and they're not basically investing their profits to expand production and expand consequently jobs. Anyone who says that these are job creators, no, that's a total bogus lie. These corporations, these companies are hoarding trillions of dollars in profits. They're not investing it. They're holding on to it, or they're speculating on the stock market.
Yeah, and it's important to always look behind the headlines. Look behind what people say.
Look behind the numbers.
Look behind what we say, because there's always a different story. There's always a different way of looking at it, and that's kind of necessarily in this news space what socialism is. It's going to be taking the numbers and standing on the complete opposite side and going, oh, that doesn't mean what they say it means. So
remember how in the beginning when we used to pretend that we weren't socialists and that we were just
that was hilarious,
skirting around the bush.
We didn't say the word on the radio show for the first 6 months or something.
Go back and listen to those early shows if you can.
They're hilariously bad.
All right, this has been the Adam and Sheridan Show video podcast, number 14. Catch us on the radio. WRFALP.com is the internet version. WRFALP 107.9 on the radio if you're in Jamestown.
WRFALP.wordpress.com, and then you can click our link to the SoundCloud thing because it's too long to say on the radio, so it's going to be here. Catch us on Twitter,
Facebook,
Adam and Sheridan, Facebook.
We're getting a lot of good feedback on Facebook. So
we are.
We really thank you for that.
Yeah, and when we say feedback, we mean feeding egos.
Right. So we don't want any thought-provoking stuff. Just tell us how great I look.
Exactly. Got a haircut.
Right. All right. This has been the Adam and Sheridan Show video podcast.
Ace Ventura because it was kind of sticking up at first.
My goodness.
That's all right. Yeah.
That's a compliment in my book though, because I love Jim Carrey. We will not be on YouTube next week because Sheridan's
I have
going
a vacation.
on vacation. We're not doing a radio show, so we'll be re-airing our radio show from this week and just re-watch this episode next week.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm Adam Courtright.
I'm Sheridan. Stay active.